This is the racetrack circuit. Located in BeamNG's automation test track, this time trial is the definition of normal race in the game. Pure asphalt, clean layout. At first glance, it looks easy. A few basic turns, a big straight, nothing too crazy. But like any deceptively simple track, it shares a familiar fate. Take AO1 from Trackmania. Simple, short and infamous, because it became the ultimate battleground for speedrunners. Easy to learn, hard to master. Every corner must be optimized, every line must be perfect. So let's dive into the speedrunning history of the biggest proving ground in BeamNG, the racetrack circuit. Over the years, many players have reached the top spot. But to really understand how they did it, we first need to take a quick look at the map itself. As mentioned earlier, this track is pretty simplistic in nature and usually takes around 2 minutes to finish, depending on the car of course. But don't let that easy vibe fool you. One mistake here usually means a full restart, especially in the later parts. It all starts with a straight, a false sense of security if you ask me. It leads right into a near 90-degree zigzag. This section is the perfect example of the hidden traps on the map. Not only does it demand precise speed control, but it also tests how well you understand your car's behavior. After that, you get a wide, relaxing turn, straight into another 90-degree corner. I'm starting to see a pattern here. One more sharp turn and then comes the big straight. A perfect place to test your car's top speed, but don't get carried away. This straight ends with a brutal corner. It's wide, but going too fast means getting on the grass, and that usually will lead to your car becoming a pancake. You need the perfect balance here. Knowing the braking distance of the car is key. Right after that is another zigzag, just like before, 90-degree, impossible to cut and all about control. Then it's 3 corners to the finish, with short straights in between. This might seem easy, but your racing line matters more than ever, especially on the final corner. With the overview out of the way, let's get into the history, and it all starts 5 years ago, with Eddie Murphy and the SBR4 factory config. Hill climb, asphalt. At the time the SBR4 was king, and this specific variation was one of the fastest cars in the game. A natural choice for a map with a massive straight. That being said, this first record was far from perfect. It exposed several huge problems that would haunt anyone brave enough to speedrun this track. The biggest offender, the 90-degree turns. You either lose a ton of speed by playing it safe or risk crashing by trying to go faster. And Eddie Murphy struggled with that too, losing a lot of speed in the sharp corners and even a bit of control on the straight. Still, he managed to finish with a time of 1 minute and 55 seconds. That run became the baseline, the first true challenge for future contenders. His record held for 5 days. Waterglue managed to claim the world record by using a different car, Hirochi Sunburst, and with some improvements it became one of the best vehicles for this particular race. Why slow down to a crawl when you can drift slightly and save more speed? And due to turbo and nitrous, the car was accelerating fast. But even with all of this, his final time was only 1 second faster, 1 minute and 54 seconds. That being said, this was the first record that showcased the power of the Sunburst. To no one's surprise, just 1 month later the record was destroyed. Same car, nearly identical tuning, except for one key difference: weight. The Falcon 1 stripped the car down, removing almost everything that wasn't essential, something that would become a staple of BeamNG speedrunning in future. That weight reduction turned out to be crucial, boosting acceleration, improving braking and even adding 20 km to the car's top speed. The improvement was huge, almost 6 seconds were saved. The Falcon 1 crossed the line with a time of 1 minute and 48 seconds. The next several days were packed with broken records, each one better than the last. The Sunburst quickly became the car of choice. Zunkusim entered the scene using almost the same setup as before, featuring longer gears and higher RPM. This helped him on the straight, but sadly drivers still lost time on corners. But even with those small mistakes, he managed to set a new time of 1 minute and 47.5 seconds, shaving off another 8/10. Later that same day, Falcon FX9 posted a new record of his own. With almost the same setup, his straight was slower by 20 kilometers, but corners were faster and he managed to save more speed. After second zigzag, runner was 0.3 of a second ahead and he managed to save the difference to the very end, pushing the time down to 1 minute and 47.3 seconds and saving 0.3. But just 5 days later it was broken again. Markoon came in with a new level of precision, cutting corners, preserving speed and optimizing every section. His zigzags were flawless. The runner did slide out a few times and that cost him time, but at the end he still saved a full second, finishing with a time of 1 minute and 46.3 seconds. And right when the fight was at its peak, the asphalt legend Fek joined the fray. With his own unique twist to the meta, he broke the record using the Ibishu Pessima. It was slightly slower than the Sunburst in top speed, but it had better braking, tighter control, and overall handled the track more efficiently. Combined with Fek's skill, it became an unstoppable force. He finished with a sub 46 time and saved another second. Fek's driving was unmatched, and even though many tried, none could take him down. You just can't beat pure skill with RNG when there is nothing random to begin with, and trying to outdo Fek using his own setup nearly impossible. Unless there was another way to save time. Another way to skip the zigzags, the awkward corners. All of it. Turns out there was a skip, and it was hiding in plain sight. In 2020, the community was deep into a skip hunting phase, and this map was one of the first victims. Garfish360 discovered and executed one of the most obvious skips in BeamNG history. By simply veering to the left at the start, he was able to cut out a massive section of the map. But how was that even possible? Well, surprisingly, this 2-minute track only had 2 checkpoints. That's right, just 2. Not counting the start and finish, and strangely, this only applies to the main menu start of the trial. In comparison, the version you get when starting from free roam has 11. Whether it was a dev oversight or intentional remains a mystery, but either way, that quirk led to the first massive time drop on the leaderboard. With a basic FCV Vivas setup and no weight reduction, Garfish immediately saved 10 seconds using the skip, but it wasn't flawless. The problem was the first checkpoint. It sits slightly behind the natural re-entry point after the skip, meaning you have to slow down or detour just to hit it. Still, even with that awkward checkpoint and a less than perfect run, he managed to finish with an impressive 1 minute and 35.8 seconds. It didn't take long for others to follow. Just 2 weeks later, Fek returned with a flawless run. He nailed the skip almost perfectly, grabbed the checkpoint cleanly, and pushed his SBR4 to 350 km on the straight. The refined setup and pinpoint precision allowed him to slash even more time. He saved 13.5 seconds, finishing with a jaw-dropping 1 minute and 22.5 seconds. Fek had once again cemented his place as one of the best asphalt drivers in BeamNG. After that run, things went quiet. In his typical fashion, Fek dominated the map, and no one could touch him. Until 2 months later, when suddenly a new world record appeared. And not just any record. Fek was beaten by a full second. Zonkusim returned with not only a fresh car setup, but also a new skip, the second major discovery on this map. Instead of dealing with one of the brutal 90-degree corners, he simply jumped over it. And in principle, this skip is very easy. Drive off onto the grass, launch off the hill, and land right back on the road. It even sounds simple, but like any good skips, it's anything but. It demands pinpoint precision, speed control, and a solid grasp of BeamNG's physics. One wrong move and you are spinning out or flipping instantly. But even with all that, the skip was doable, and Zonkusim proved it using his custom SBR4 tune. Equipped with the GTRX Aero Kit and a powerful engine, it was perfect for this kind of shortcut. Thanks to that, he set a new record, 1 minute and 21.5 seconds. But it didn't last long. Fek was watching. Within hours he struck back. His run is beautiful to watch, with a near perfect first skip, he cleanly grabbed the tricky checkpoint with barely any time loss. The second skip wasn't flawless, but the car stayed intact, and with his trademark precision, Fek stormed to the finish. The result? An exceptional 1 minute and 17.6 seconds. Another dominant run. And that's how 2020 ended for this map, with Fek once again on top, thanks to a near-perfect racing lines and a finely tuned car. But runners around the world weren't giving up just yet. In early 2021, Tom Vac stepped in to challenge Fek's dominance, and he actually succeeded. His driving was aggressive and razor sharp. The first skip was fast, but the real magic came on the second, a near full-speed jump with barely any airtime. See, the only way to save serious time here is by keeping your speed up, but with skips that's hard to do, especially the second one, which normally throws your car into the air and kills momentum. Tom Vac avoided that, landed cleanly and saved 8/10, finishing with a new record, 1 minute and 16.8 seconds. But it didn't last long. About a month later, Fek returned, retaking the crown. He'd clearly learned from Tom Vac's run, hitting a clean first skip and a decent second. The landing wasn't perfect. He came down hard on the front left wheel and bent the shaft slightly, which caused cornering issues later. But even with that, he crossed the line in 1 minute and 16.4 seconds, saving another 4/10 and took back the world record. After a whole year of Fek's record holding out, it was finally beaten by Kimurasa. By this point, the map and all its nuances were well known. The only way to save time was through new tuning setups and even cleaner execution, and Kimurasa pulled it off. He pushed his SBR4 tune to the absolute limit after the first skip, reaching up to 330 km. That was technically slower than Fek's top speed, but Kimurasa's setup was stronger in the corners and much better during the second skip. The jump was cleared at almost full speed, and the turns afterward were flawless. That was enough to snatch the world record with a time of 1 minute 16.1 seconds, saving another 2/10. The fight was on, and Fek wasn't done yet. Just 3 months later, he came back with a brand new setup, still an SBR4, but faster. Acceleration was on another level, and cornering was silky smooth. It should have been perfect, but Fek messed up the first skip, losing about the 10th. His second skip wasn't great either. The car got jumpy after landing, losing some stability. Quick thinking helped him to get back in the race, and he got the world record back, saving 7/10 and finally breaking into sub-15 territory. Final time 1 minute 15.4 seconds. And then, on June 15th, 2022, BeamNG got a big update, and with it a brand new car, the Civetta Scintilla. It was obviously better than the SBR4, much faster, much lighter. Sure, it had issues with cornering and was pretty fragile overall, but nothing a skilled player couldn't overcome. And that's why, barely a week after the patch, Kimurasa came back with a new setup, Scintilla with the V10 engine. Even at this early point, it was already considered the best vehicle in the game, and this map cemented that status. With an almost perfect first skip, Kimurasa flew into the straight and effortlessly reached 400 kilometers. That's nearly 70 kilometers faster than his previous record. After a smooth turn, he lined up for the second skip. Now, this part is way harder in the Scintilla, mostly because of the low frame. It's not a full speed section, and the runner knew it. He slowed down a bit too much, but still landed almost perfectly. After that, the Scintilla's acceleration just crushed any hopes for an SBR4 comeback. Kimurasa finished with a beautiful time of 1 minute 12.6 seconds, saving nearly 3 whole seconds. Fek was dumbfounded by the Scintilla. To him, it was both oversteery and understeery, just an overall bad car for clean and interesting driving. Pure power and nothing else. But once he adapted to the new meta and built a perfect setup, he got to work. 1 month later, he took the record back with a clean first skip and an even cleaner straight. He pulled ahead. His tune was way more powerful. He hit 415 kilometers at one point, but his second skip far from ideal. he almost crashed. The front wheel shaft got bent and the car started veering off to the side, but even that didn't stop him. He finished with a time of 1 minute and 12.3 seconds, shaving off another 4/10. And once again, the year ended with FAQ on top. But just 5 months later, in February of 2023, another runner stepped in to test his skills in both tuning and driving. Haiku. His unique variation of the Scintilla had already proven itself many times before, especially on other time trials like track editor tracks. But this was different. On this map, grass was a huge problem for the Scintilla, and losing control was way too common. After countless attempts, restarts and fails, Haiku finally pulled off a clean run. Now, his Scintilla was overall slower than the variants used by Kimurasa or FAQ, but it had far superior control, especially in the air. First skip was not a problem. In fact, he landed it as cleanly as you possibly can. Due to the lower speed, he did lose some time on the straight, but that didn't matter much, because the second skip was a work of art. His setup for the jump was almost ideal, and the jump itself was perfect. Sadly, Haiku did lose control after landing, but he managed to quickly stabilize. At that point, he was already ahead by 1/10, and with each corner, the gap only grew in Haiku's favor. Those final turns turned a tiny 0.1 lead into a nearly 0.7, and Haiku crossed the finish line with a time of 1 minute and 11.6 seconds. And that was it. FAQ didn't try to compete with Haiku for this record, so the time of 1 minute and 11.6 seconds stood for a year and a half, until one runner finally took his shot. Cryocentric joined the community less than 10 months ago, and already crushed several long-standing records, including very optimized run on Hirochi Raceway, and now he came for this one too, using his own unique Scintilla setup. The most interesting part is that he didn't use any nitro and focused entirely on control rather than raw power. And compared to Haiku's run, he was slower 60% of the race. His landing after the second skip was actually 3/10 behind Haiku, but in the next 30 seconds he gained an incredible 7/10 with astonishing driving and perfect lines, and he crossed the finish with a time of 1 minute and 11.1 seconds, almost breaking the 11-second barrier and saving another 5/10. This barrier was bound to attract more runners, and in just 6 months it did. Every gaming and ex-pro sim racer wanted a challenge, and he found one. His Scintilla tune used dark owl parts that offered a strange trade-off: less downforce but better air control. And surprisingly, it worked. Not in the obvious way though. His second skip wasn't optimal, but the landing was strangely smooth and most importantly, early. Runner managed to start accelerating early and miraculously avoided the one thing that ruined these runs: bent wheel shafts. At that point in the run, he was already 1/10 ahead of anyone else, and the car just kept going faster. His Scintilla setup combined the control of Cryocentric's slower tune and the raw power of FAQ's beast, and that led to a new, unbelievable time: 1 minute and 10.8 seconds. The 11-second barrier was finally broken, and Eric saved another 3/10. And that's where everything could have stopped, if not for one person and his obsession: Vulp. A known Jato enthusiast, he was always testing different tracks to see what could be broken, and for a long time this map wasn't even on the list. It was simply too long for Jato. Even with insane acceleration and perfect jet efficiency, the 12 seconds of fuel just weren't enough. But by this point Vulp had already conquered a bunch of tracks once considered impossible for Jato, so he started theory crafting and then took it to the field. If it worked, this would be the biggest skip in all of BeamNG's speedrunning. Vulp installed a mod to give himself more Jato fuel to prove one thing: the third skip was indeed possible. A skip that could flip the entire track upside down. Racetrack circuit has always been pretty open, especially near the finish. In fact, you can see the end from the second skip, and with enough speed and the right line, Vulp proved that you could fly straight from second skip to the finish. But what about an actual run? After 2 weeks of grinding, he finally got it. His first skip not optimal. Actually, no one had ever taken it like that before, because doing so kills your speed. But Jato doesn't care about speed loss. After hitting the checkpoint, he blasted the jets for just 3 seconds and held a solid pace down the straight. It was nowhere near Scintilla level speed, and he was behind. But that didn't matter. At this point, only one thing mattered: the jump line. After the first turn and a quick setup, he fired the jets and prayed. He used every drop of leftover fuel to stabilize mid-air, and honestly, that probably saved the run. And then he landed. Almost perfectly. The 1 minute barrier was officially broken. 59.8. He saved 11 seconds. But he wasn't done. You see, this run had a lot of room for time save. A perfect first skip, major time saver. Fuel usage still unoptimized. How much boost is too much on the straight? And then there is also the second skip. Technically, a lower jump could get you to the finish even faster. Just 2 days later, Wolf came back with a better run. This time he pushed fuel usage further. 4 seconds of Jato instead of 3 on the straight, and his line into the final jump was way better. He basically spearheaded straight into the finish line. His new time was 53.5 seconds, another 6 seconds gone. But he wasn't the only one grinding. Aero Gaming was still in the lab, analyzing lines, tuning setups, perfecting efficiency. And after 5 days of non-stop attempt, he got the run. His first skip was clean. He boosted 4 seconds down the straight, just like Wolf, but his turn was flawless, and the jump a perfect angle. And he even saved a bit of fuel for extra air speed. His final time is 52.5, almost a full second faster. And then, 3 months later, Wolf returned, with a run that can only be called perfection. This was the ultimate Jato Showcase. The first skip was executed perfectly, followed by a clean setup into the straight. His line for the final jump is unreal. Wolf implemented a low airtime strategy to reduce distance and save even more time. But just before the finish, disaster struck. The car clipped a light post mid-air, nearly ruining the entire run. Somehow, BeamNG physics was on his side and car kept on going the right way, to the finish. His time was 52.036 seconds. Another 46 hundredths was erased. What's next for this map? Who knows? Maybe some brave soul will grind it and finally get that sub 50 record. But until then, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon.